Hello, fellow Pelicans. Jacqueline Abernathy here, and I am following up on another Ask Abernathy question that was a comment underneath an answer that I gave to John Jorgis when he asked about what the necessity of social justice means to me. I mentioned that we should universally care about human rights for all humans, even if those humans are not people that we necessarily identify as. So even though I am an American born person and I don't ever have to worry about what asylum seekers endure, doesn't mean that I should not care about immigration issues. And I also mentioned that, obviously I'm not a person of color, that I don't know what it's like to be afraid for my life during a routine traffic stop. And Andrew Gallavan asked, what are some of your ideas for criminal justice reform? And I want to offer my policy proposal. It's not a formal proposal, but underneath that comment, I linked to a proposal that I was workshopping. Perhaps not the correct word because this is not a Broadway play, but it's not a formal policy proposal. But I was at the time, this was 2018, May 2018. I was a graduate professor in the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Charleston State University, and I was seeking my expert colleagues' opinions on this proposal to see if there are any unforeseen consequences or things that I didn't consider. I would like to offer that proposal as an example of some of the things that I think might be useful in fighting for racial justice. And the idea basically comes from the loser pay law. It involves forcing the police to justify their involvement when they're accused of overreach and racial profiling, racial discrimination. And it would likewise apply to citizens. And if they make false accusations, and that involves bringing in the police, and then the police are able to overreact and do absolute horrible things to people who end up suing and winning, there should be fines associated with that. And those fines can pay for the lawsuits, the fallout. But the idea is not to finance the harassment of persons of color. The idea is to prevent it. And I believe that by having some sort of economic consequence for people abusing 911 and calling out the cops, because there's someone that's napping in an Ivy League dorm and they don't think that they should be there, or they have an Airbnb reservation and they don't think that they should be there. They're having a barbecue and they don't think that they should be there. They're in the Starbucks and they don't think that they should be there. In all of these situations, we have no need for the police involvement. There's no reason whatsoever for the police to have ever gotten involved in any of these situations where they had the ability to escalate into violence. And I believe that by having this accountability mechanism, what it will do is greatly decrease the odds that people will feel comfortable using 911 and the police as a tool to harass people of color. And I don't know if this was before or after Christian Cooper, the bird watcher in Central Park, was in an altercation with Amy Cooper, no relation, who did not have her dog on a leash. And there was a little verbal fight about it. And then Amy Cooper, white woman, says, I'm going to call the police and say that an African-American man is threatening my life, because she knew that the police were going to take her side and she was abusing that. There needs to be a consequence for that. And that consequence doesn't necessarily need to be public shaming and everything where they lose their job. And she lost her dog even. Because basically right now, what we have for people that do that is we give them, some sort of cute nickname, like Barbecue Becky and, some kind of Karen, but that doesn't fix the issue. These things still happen because there are no systemic legal consequences for this. So I would like to see police officers being forced to justify their choice to pull someone over, their choice to involve themselves in any circumstance where they're not necessarily needed. And I would like to see private citizens as well, if there's a chance to not involve the police, exhaust that before the police are involved. Because some of the things that we've had happen with horrible things. For example, a woman at a Waffle House, they threatened to break her arm. They, pulled down her dress, exposing her top, pushed her on the ground. When these are the police, when she was complaining to the clerk that they did not include any plastic silverware in her order, there was no point where she was asked to leave. If she was asked to leave and didn't, then that would be trespassing and the police could get involved. I certainly don't think that should happen, that she should have been asked to leave. But that's far superior than the violence and being taken to jail and what ensued. Same thing for the gentlemen that were waiting for a friend at a Starbucks. Much better to say they call 911, insisting that they need police intervention. And they did not even say to the gentleman, okay, you need to make a purchase or you need to leave. If that's the rule that they want to impose as a private establishment, fine. And giving people the chance to leave in that case would have been far superior than 30 hours in prison that those gentlemen faced. I believe that by having some sort of infrastructure accountability for abusing 911 and involving the police in escalating situations that don't need to be escalated, I believe that we are inviting this kind of violence because the people that make the call and use the police in this manner are not held accountable in any way, shape, or form. This is disturbing that these people, these innocent people, their lives are changed by their altercation with police officers harassing them for just existing in a place that someone else didn't think they should exist. And the people that made that claim have no reason whatsoever not to continue to make claims in the future because there's no consequences for those. And so that's what I would like more discussion on that proposal, to see how people that are experts in criminal justice, who have lived experience as a person of color, would propose we handle this differently than what I have proposed. If there's any reason why it's a bad idea, there should be changes to avoid negative consequences, I would like to hear those. But I wanted to offer that as one example of ways that I have been thinking about dealing with criminal justice reform and ways to limit the violence against people of color by limiting the unnecessary interactions with the police. So I am interested. I am linking to that proposal. It's not, like I said, not a formal proposal. It was actually placed on Facebook originally, but I have moved it to my blog for the sake of access where anyone can see it and share it. I do look forward to your thoughts on it and also your questions moving forward. Any more questions? And I am still getting to some of your questions, but I would love to address any questions you have on this or anything else you would like to know about my campaign or where I stand. Thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate everyone standing for life.